Hello, this is Kyler. This is my second video, and today I'll be talking about breeding and raising crickets and all the ins and outs, the how-tos, and how I got started. So my first cricket experiment, I got started about 8 weeks ago, and my experiment did not go very well. A lot of my crickets died, and I quickly learned that the process is a lot more difficult and complicated than I originally had thought. So for the raising crickets, I'll go through what you'll need if you ever want to do it. What you'll need is there's four main things crickets will need, and that is that crickets they'll need food, they'll need water, they'll need adequate space, and they'll need appropriate lighting. So for food, the first source that I had recommended that you get these vegetable and nutrient rich foods like corn and oats and some form of dog kibble food. And this can be quite expensive. So for me, I just purchased a packets of chicken feed, and I grinded it up so that it was edible for baby small crickets that could be able to chew it and consume this food, whereas the cricket food, chicken feed, was originally a lot larger than they would be able to consume. The second thing they'll need is water. Water is more complicated than just put it in a dish. You'll also need to have it where it's in a form that they can consume the water in, but it's also not so they can drown, because that is that is actually on my fourth source, where it talks about how drowning is one of the main issues associated with raising crickets, where the water level will be too high and then they fall in and can't get out and they end up just dying. So that's not good. And so the first source that I had, the WikiHow of how to raise crickets, recommends that you just put cotton swabs or a form of fabric filled with water so that it can easily be soaked out and drinked out of by the crickets without the risk of drowning. So the next thing you'll also need adequate lighting. Adequate lighting. This was an issue I was a little bit on the fence with, because I heard that you'll also need sunlight, but at the same time you may need dark areas. According to my second source, the Animal Bliss website, where they talked about putting egg cartons, because egg cartons are great for having more surface, so crickets can go up and down and all around through, and they have much more surface area in a bin versus just at the very bottom level of your bin. So they'll also need egg cartons. This will provide more surface area, and it will overall make the bin a lot more bigger. So the next thing is the conditions. Temperature-wise, they'll be around 80 to 90 degrees, and then they'll be in a livable conditions. And you also need to check food and water levels daily. Otherwise, it may be running low, and you may run the risk of a few of them at least, dying. Interesting fact about crickets, one of my third source listed about something that I actually did not know beforehand, was the difference between telling the difference between a male and a female is based on the back side of the cricket, where they have the antennas coming out of their rear. So the antennas are called ovipostors, and the male has only two that come out vertically, whereas the female has two that come out, or excuse me, perpendicular. The female has two that come out perpendicular, but also one that comes down straight down the middle, and that's how to tell the difference, in case you ever wanted to know. The fourth source also talked about how drowning was a problem, and it talked about inadequate temperature. 80 to 90 degrees is where they are most effectively breed. And sanitary conditions, always want to keep your bins clean, and you don't want run the risk of running diseases or infections that could wipe them all out. So sanitary conditions are a must. And the final thing to note is the actual breeding process. The breeding process is a lot more complicated than most people would think, and my fifth and final article is on that, where they talk about having a material. They recommend the vermiculite, which is the most common in the breeding community or the cricket community. Vermiculite is this soft substance and compound that crickets can nest their eggs in, where they can insert them in, and they can basically be kept there and safe. And when you're ready to braid them out, you take whatever dish that the vermiculite is in, or it could be sand, and then you move it to another bin where you relocate it to be good. Okay, thank you for watching my video, and have a good one.